See that you're born an Italian if you want your life to be great. See that you're born an Italiano and your life will be great.
How about some Donatello?
That's a nice.
Hey there, Paisani, and welcome back to another episode of the Italian American Podcast. I'm John Viola, along with the notorious POB, the Italian American Wikipedia, Mr. Patrick O'Boyle, here at the corner of Mulberry and Grand in the heart of Manhattan's Little Italy, Red Sauce Studio, for another episode of your favorite weekly dose of Italian American heritage, history, and hilarity. We've got two very special guests with us.
I want to publicly denounce you first.
What do I do now?
Because you told me that what happened was about a year ago, we had a taping of my kazoo.
Oh, you're mad at me for this, huh?
And I was told that after every episode, my taped kazoo, Rye television closing was used.
It wasn't until we went to video. We only have
no
an
one
audio.
Ever told me to bring a kazoo.
Yeah, you're
because
right.
that was a hallmark, and I had to ask. Had I not asked, I never would have known.
You know, I was in Italy about a month ago, and I was watching TV, and it came up on the Rai News, and of course, like, I got a flash of you and the kazoo or humming, and it was the first time I'd heard it, not by you in like years. But we do have to put that back. But I have a kazoo I bought at the dollar store. I know you got the real kazoo. You bought it in
Pennsylvania kazoo, Stradivarius kazoo, and I was told we're going to have one standard kazoo taping, and that was going to be used for everything. And I'm docile, product of 21 years of Catholic education. I just do what I'm told.
Speaking of Catholic education, can we introduce our guests? Because
go ahead.
This is amazing. So we came in today. Pat identifies and tracks down our guests for the show.
I'm the truffle dog of
You are the truffle dog of Italian American stories, yes. Wow. And we get pamphlets and things like that and research, and so Mary Lou and Jerome Bongiorno are our guests today, two filmmakers, college sweethearts, we learned earlier. But the fact that we learned even beyond that I think is kind of mind-blowing, and I'm sure if you're longtime listeners, you have heard many, many, many stories about Pat's experience at QP, Queen of Peace, North Arlington, New Jersey. Mary Lou's another alumnus.
Yes, alum, and we had many stories.
Many shared experiences.
Same nuns. Yes, we had many. That was a strong, strong bond. Yes.
But
that
you
will never be repeated.
You came to the school from Newark, New Jersey. You're from the Italian community of Newark.
Yes.
And you were saying off mic, Northern Italians.
Yes.
Tell us about where your family's from.
So my parents are both born in the Veneto region, outside of Venice, very small towns, but they are distinct.
What other towns?
Yes, Montorso, because that's where Luigi de Porto wrote the first Romeo and Juliet, and we just screened there in April, which was really exciting for us, to return to Italy. And my father's from Montecchio Maggiore, which is the site of two real castles, of which inspired the Porto to write Romeo and Juliet.
Time out. So you say the original Romeo and Juliet, so that makes me assume that Shakespeare's play is based on a pre-existing...
Correct. In Italian, Luigi de Porto, look it up. Yeah. It's there. Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. I'm not a literature guy, but that's... Well.
Shakespeare was a Mario.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
So there you go.
I heard somebody say Shakespeare may have lived in Italy for a period. There's like this theory that... Somebody wrote a book on it, Shakespeare in Italy. How did he know all these things to set these plays in Italy? Perhaps he lived there.
He was a crypto-Catholic, too. His father had fought against the Reformation.
Is that right?
They think that he probably was Catholic, but just kept a low profile.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That's why there's Catholic themes in his plays.
Is that right? I'm not a Shakespeare scholar.
We get a lot of criticism from certain people on the podcast that we don't have any Northern Italian representation.
The truffle dog did here.
And we had two today. Because people don't realize.
No, we have one.
Well, Jerome,
today, you're not Northern Italian.
I am not Italian. I am Sicilian.
Oh, he's even better. This is like look fast.
He loves that. He's snorting that one. Johnny Boy loves that.
I do like that. Yeah,
everybody loves that.
Yeah,
he breaks the ice with that. Yeah.
You're full Sicilian.
Complete.
Wow.
Oh, he's tripping on this one.
Yeah, I can't even keep. I can't.
Cento.
Whereabouts in Sicily?
between Castellammare del Golfo.
Oh, wow, beautiful. And
Palermo.
your family's from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I'm assuming South Brooklyn.
Sheepshead Bay.
Oh, Sheepshead Bay.
Yeah.
All right, can't beat that. Sheepshead Bay gets a shout out in Lou Monte.
But people don't realize Newark is so known for people from Avellino. Newark had a lot of people from Avellino.
Yes.
And Newark had a lot of people from Calabria that went to down Neck Newark. But there was a colony of people that was around Immaculate Conception Parish. That was an Italian national parish for people from Veneto. So that was in a southern ocean, that was a small little northern Italian colony of people from Veneto that was in North Newark.
That's really
that bordered the
interesting.
Silver Lake area.
That's wild. I would have never, ever in a million years guessed that. That's like, that's trivia.
That's what we.
That's what we trade in is Italian American trivia. But you guys met in college.
We did.
St. Peter's in Jersey City. This is a completely Jersey episode.
Did you? Oh gosh.
It's Jersey.
Yeah, that's Jersey episode. How
Definitely.
you meet in college? You're both studying film. How do you get into making films together?
No, we're studying sciences. So,
Biology.
Yeah, I spent 2
Biology.
years in a doctoral program for neurophysiology before.
Post-college.
Yes, post-college. And then Jerome was in medical school for a period as well. And
Post-college.
Then post-college.
You don't do that before college.
And then we found that all of our passions literally coalesced, and film gave us the option to do that. So I went to NYU's graduate film program. Yay! NYU. And he kind of did a 2-for-1 there. That's another story.
That's like my wife. My wife went back to school for design and fashion and sourcing and other things, and I learned half of it along with her because we were,
That's right.
who was doing projects together in this sense. So I feel like I understand the two for.
Beautiful.
So
What was the 2-for-1?
The 2-for-1, she would go during the day, and I was working as a teacher, and then at night I would sneak into the place and sit in with her in her classes, and I would do all the editing. So I was sitting there on the steam deck cutting up all the film. So,
Yeah.
take apart the camera, put it.
The professors, they loved
Befriended,
him.
right. It was
Took the
great.
camera apart
Yeah.
and literally learned cinematography, audio, because they train you to be auteurs. You're supposed to know how to do everything at NYU, unlike some of the West Coast schools. So you were really trained to do sound. Yay! I appreciate all this editing, all this great stuff. By
See,
the way, that is
microphones, very
an
important.
incredible microphone.
oh yeah,
that
thank
were
you
using.
very very much. I started using it this morning. We
Oh.
recorded this morning because we had a bunch of guests on and we were moving mics around, and this is a microphone that my wife gave me because I met my wife at a party. We used to have big parties at our house, and we would like have a stage and MC these big productions. And so after we started dating, she got this for me we moved in together and started throwing these parties together. So this is like one of the first gifts she ever gave me. So when we opened the studio, I brought it
Like
in.
Tony
So-
Bennett should like Greg. Because of you.
That's exactly right.
There's
Yeah.
a song
I should be
in
singing to
my
this.
heart.
Not that she wants to hear me sing
love
after
that.
15 years,
It's
but
paradise.
yeah,
It's
she-
been
love it.
15 years?
almost. Yeah, we met about 15 years ago. Yeah, I know.
Because I remember when she came on stage.
Yeah, yes, like a love-struck puppy
Congratulations.
for sure. But yeah, this is my wife's ode to my wife now over here, and I love this thing. Look at how could you beat
beautiful.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, no. that's-
Sleek and lovely. Yeah.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. We should go to all of these things. I wanted the one with the on air, like the radio with the light up, but can't get working ones anymore. So that's about it. So you guys decide to pursue filmmaking. What's the sort of first topics that you tackle?
So we love Federico Fellini's films. And actually, in this most recent film we did, we excerpt a lot of these that I learned to appreciate at NYU. So in film school, we used to watch these movies. But Fellini said you have to film your own backyard, or they attributed that to him. I think it's more like that. So we started filming our backyard.
Literally.
Newark, 1967 was a historical period that just loomed large. I was a child at the time. The Newark Riots Rebellion. And we started with that. Fortunate to have Spike Lee as a mentor at that time, and just continue to do that. So we made documentaries about it. We started mining everything, but it's very Newark centric and Italy centric. Our films, yeah.
I mean, we are people who tend to like to talk about our culture. I mean, that makes sense, right? We have, I think, a lot of stories to tell.
Oh yeah.
You bring up Fellini. I'm not a film scholar, but obviously Fellini is this elevated genius that everybody, right?
Absolutely.
But the thing about Fellini that I always like when I do watch, right? There's an absurdist sense to this Italy that he portrays. But then when you work in Italy long enough, you realize it's not that absurdist. Like sometimes I feel like, did Fellini just turn a camera on and these situations actually unfolded? Or like, you know what I mean? Italy is that shockingly absurd sometimes, you know? I don't know.
Yeah,
what makes him so
bigger
special?
than life, and it's a lot of people. And I was told that when I was at NYU, I like to put a lot of people, a lot of Italians into the films. And he is bigger than life, and yet hits on universal truths.
Yes.
Do you want to comment?
Yeah,
on
he's
that?
hyperbolic when he shoots, and it's all kind of crazy and fanciful. But the plots and his characters are, real people with real problems, and at the bottom of it all, like if you look at I Vitelloni, which is one of his greatest films, or even La Dolce Vita or something, the main characters have issues, problems that I identify with. So and everybody's very kind in his films, and he has a kind directorial attitude, and that's why we like his films.
Yeah, kindness is a good word.
Yeah.
Kindness, yeah, because even we like Alfred
He's not
Hitchcock.
mean-spirited.
Yeah.
Hitchcock's films, and there were one
Another
of our
one.
favorite filmmakers, Eric
Catholic
Romer.
Hitchcock.
Well, he wrote a book called The Catholicism of Hitchcock.
Yeah.
That's Eric Romer's book.
Yeah, and his kindness comes through Hitchcock.
And Claude Chabrol. Yeah, so we like that kindness. That
Is
sense
Hitchcock,
of-
he was from a Recuson family? Was he a convert? What?
I think they were reckless.
Wow, that's power. I didn't know
I
that.
don't know
But
Catholicism was big in his life and in his films.
Yeah,
he's probably the most prominent culturally. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of converts.
Tolkien?
Yeah, there was a lot of English converts to Catholicism at that time in the 50s and 60s. But he was probably the most prominent English cradle Catholic
Interesting.
It's a great
of
question.
that period.
Yeah, he's got lots of, Marys and crosses in his films. So
Yeah, and
Just
then
look
there's
out
I
for them.
Confess, which is Montgomery Clift.
Montgomery Clift as a priest.
Playing a
right?
priest. I mean,
Another
it's-
kindly.
Brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see that thread in all of that. In
Yes.
these people's films, certainly in Fellini.
Yeah.
And then we love the whole neo-realist movement. I mean, but then there's Antonioni, Rossellini. I mean, these are Pasolini. These are vowels. They all they move us tremendously, and we keep rewatching their films. Learn so much from them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Not heavy on plot, but
Yeah.
who cares about that?
Yeah, really. That's very true.
Back when there's too much plot, you're like, I'm not going to watch this anymore. So.
It is amazing how many movies today you can put on and leave feeling like a lot of stuff just happened, but I'm lost. Like I sometimes I watch stuff and I'm like, I don't know. Nowadays movies are dark. They're shot so dark. You could, especially movies are like long form television, episodic and stuff. So dark you can't see. You gotta,
Literally, like there's no light in it.
no lighting. They're shot dark, right? Subject matter dark as
Yeah.
well. They are, oftentimes I don't know why the audio is so mumbled. You have to have subtitles on. Like, if
And
people-
yet, look at a 50s film, or no, forget that. Look at a 30s film.
Yeah.
And it's
They're
so
crisp.
beautiful, and
Yeah.
you can hear every word.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. And
I
sometimes
don't
you
know
watch
what's
these
going on.
really complex projects and then you walk away, you're like, what just happened? I got to watch it again. My wife makes fun of me all the time because every time I leave a movie, I'm like, that was
Well,
good. And then the
gotta
next day
say,
I hated it.
they leave
When I
you with
watched
little-
8.5 the first time, I had to watch it in like 8 installments. I kept falling asleep. But then, we got to the point
That's
where
true.
we would watch it like, 2 times in a
too.
row. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8.5 is, if I understand, 8.5.
Yes, it's the best film ever.
Is that right? Yeah.
Hands down.
That's your number one?
Oh, no,
Why
it's
do you
great.
say that? Because you guys are professionals,
It's
right?
great.
Why? That's a.
Because it's got a great story. This guy's trying to overcome so many things, problems in his marriage, problems in his own artistic life, and it's fun, and it's it's got so many nuances in it, but it's just I identify with the story.
It's his struggles
so,
with writing a script that's semi-autobiographical, and it is it's reflective of Fellini's life too. And it
Maybe we
has-
don't know that because he's a liar.
That's right. He's a liar. That's what they call him. He's the liar, right? That's his book, and he self-admitted liar.
That's right,
So
Which might be a lie, but
right, that could be a lie too.
We don't know.
See,
It's
but
good.
it goes back, I think, John, to what you said about meaning and about being bigger. Like he wasn't afraid to go bigger, and yet it worked. It didn't seem untrue.
he's big. But the storylines are still we can identify with it.
Definitely. You have Anita Ekberg, dancing
Yeah.
in the Dolce Vita in the Trevi Fountain.
Yeah.
I mean, you have that, and yet it's still a personal story in a moment.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Didn't they make a movie called Nine that was about
Nine,
the
right.
8.5,
making
yeah.
of 8.5 or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that?
based on
It's like
the
a
play, yeah.
It's like a fictional
Yes.
version of it. Yeah.
Based on the play, yeah.
It was a play. Excuse me. So-
Yeah. No, they made it, I think, into a film. You're right.
yeah. But but the original was a play. Then it was
Yes.
made into a film. Got it.
Right.
Because it's a musical.
Right, and
Nine.
it's also what Sweet Charity is based on. Also on
That's right. The Cabrini, Nights of Cabrini.
Cabiria, yeah. So there are American versions of of these films, but I think the originals are much more effective.
Yeah. So it's something about the sort of, I don't know, the light in Italy when you watch these things. It's just like these films just glow, But you guys come in today through Pat's Truffle Dog Radar because of a project that you made a little bit closer to home, right? We want to talk about this?
Sure. You're talking about American Women Saints, our
Yeah.
series for
Sure.
PBS?
You have so much.
I
you
know.
Have, I don't know how we're going to get it all in an hour, but
But the
No, we
Saints,
won't.
the
What-
Saints
what,
is
what got me
his,
was
yeah.
that when people think of saints, they think of a plaster statue of a perfect person,
Yes.
right?
Really.
And what I love what you did was hagiography, right? Which is the term of
Yes.
the biography of the perfect saint, right? But they were people, right? And people have always had the same issues, right?
Yes.
And they've had bad tempers or cheapness or criticalness or some people suffered maybe alcoholism or depression, or they had
Suicidal
every challenge in life that a modern person does, right?
Right.
But we come from a tradition where we whitewash that, right? So the devil's advocate goes in the canonization process and talks about the humanity of the saint, and then once we prove that their sanctity overcame their humanity, then we bury their humanity.
Well stated.
And
That is-
you,
I like
what
that.
I
I like
loved
that.
is that you
Yeah.
talked about in your film, because you have a lot of films to cover today, but in your one documentary about the humanity of these saints that are never addressed. And I know Cabrini, this is the year of Cabrini, right, with the film coming out, and so that's
Film's
what I
out.
wanted- right, with the
Yeah.
film out, and well, I mean coming out this year, but you made a document, you documentized the humanity of canonized saints.
Absolutely.
They're human
Two powerful
faults.
women. Yeah. So it's on PBS, which is a great medium for us because that's been our usual distribution venue because you still reach the largest audience
Yeah.
and it's free.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's important to us. These two women, so one is on Elizabeth Ann Seton and the other is on, Seton Hall University, and we can talk about, all the ties to New Jersey and elsewhere. And then there's Mother Cabrini, an icon in her own right. So these films are told in the first person, contemporary language, and they rapid fire, 86 minutes. She doesn't stop talking.
Never.
And people say they're exhausted after. I've had people come in that were assigned to cover the film say, I was prepared to be completely bored. I loved it, honest, right? And I left with an image of this woman, bulldozer, in a habit. We're talking about habits and religious women, right? And that's what she represented in particular. Both incredibly powerful. Both have ties to Italy in different ways, but what they accomplished. So we just wanted to make that universal and put all the flaws out there.
Yeah.
What were some of those flaws? The humanity of these saints.
Well, you said to me when we were talking about this, we were talking to Rutgers medical students. They watched both films last week. You were asking me, are they really flaws or are they just parts of their
Humanity.
human lives?
I'll say the
Yeah, he
humanness,
asked me that.
Right. That's
Yeah.
a
I
better way
thought
of
that was a
putting
good point, right?
Yeah, I don't see why it's flaws.
So both, I think, first of all, come from great wealth. That's not a flaw, but they both come from wealth. We have to say that because I think that's important to ground their stories. But Seton, suicidal, in her own writings.
I had no idea till
Oh,
you
yeah.
said that.
Completely. Mother of 5 children, devastated in her whole family because of tuberculosis. Her husband is, they're trying to escape to Italy to try to give him some reprieve, and they're caught in quarantine in this horrible condition, and then he passes, and then these 2 Italian men, the Fellini brothers, are instrumental in her conversion from Protestant to Catholicism.
That happened in Italy.
In Italy.
And Livorno. She was
Livorno.
converted in Livorno.
Bravo.
Right.
Bravo, Pat. I'm impressed.
We don't call him the Wikipedia for nothing.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, isn't that an incredible story? And then
It's
she
a great
has
story.
falls in love with Antonio, who's married. I mean, here you asked me. All right, isn't that the story? She falls in love with she's vulnerable, and
And
human.
he's probably handsome.
He's very handsome.
That's
I saw
Italian.
it. Yes, and he's married though.
So that's when you see the statue of Elizabeth Ann Seton, the sanitized statue. You don't realize she had an attraction to a married man.
Yeah.
She had the same problem that other people have. She
Yeah.
had, she had suicidal thoughts in her life, right? And that's the part that's what I love. What you address. You address that these were real people with real problems.
But what makes them saints? Why does the Catholic Church say these people should be made saints? You should follow them as role models. But what do they see in these people that are so saint-like?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
I do know.
We do know. We do know. And we also know that these two women are distinct because they are the first American saints. Women chosen. I mean, can you believe that? And the first is Cabrini, who was an Italian.
This
This is the first American saint.
Yeah.
Right.
And then Elizabeth Seton is the first American-born
Born saint.
But Cabrini became an American citizen, so she's an American.
But I mean, you have these two pillars, right?
Yeah.
Both women who
Huge.
are titans in education. Really,
Yeah,
everything in orphanages and the whole 9 yards.
Right.
And you have the immigrant with the broken English,
Yeah.
and the native-born American, Huguenot background. The husband was right. You have real Yankee New York background, and they, through their humanity, they do so many great things.
Yeah,
What-
they serve others.
What did you find? What were some of the criticism of Cabrini as a person?
Well, some of her, initially the first order that, quote unquote, order that she was in, there was a power struggle. And they felt that she was, these corrupt women, they were corrupt. They were there pocketing money and doing all the wrong things. And she tried to clean up, and they just gave her a very hard time, literally trying to threaten her life. I mean, so people saw her as, some of the other orders of sisters sued her over time, and she rolled up her sleeves and did the legal work to defend herself. But they saw it, some of the, we're right here in the heart of Little Italy. This is, 5 corners. This is where she was sent. This is her stomping ground. This is where not all, but some of the hierarchy in the church felt that she was competing. She was told she could only get money from other Italians.
Yeah.
She's like, well, Italians have the kind of money that I need.
Sure.
They were really, it was an Irish, there were parishes that, like St. Patrick's Cathedral was charging to go to church because they knew the Italian immigrants wouldn't be able to afford it. So
There was a pew fee.
yes.
So to sit down, there'd be a guy at the front, instead of a collection, the guy with the basket, there'd be a guy at the front door, a little desk, and whatever it was, a nickel, whatever at the time, they would be charged a pew fee. That's how it was done.
Okay.
That's how they got
fee.
pew fee.
Pew
yeah.
fee.
I mean, also they were desperate for money. So
Sure, yeah.
everybody's like, okay, well, but
Right. But
Like-
she saw it as an affront to her people.
Well, Cabrini, the best thing, when Cabrini when her process of canonization was going on. So in the old days, the devil's advocate's job was to throw off your canonization. So Rome would do the process, and they'd have a priest. And the priest's job, he was like the prosecutor. He had to bring up every reason why you shouldn't be a saint.
And I think a lot of people
Right?
don't realize that the term devil's advocate's a real thing.
That's what devil's advocate was
yeah.
a real thing. He'd come out and say, you shouldn't be a saint. This one shouldn't be a saint. And he would argue his case. And if the cardinals who voted on it, they would hear all the bad evidence because they're human beings, and then if they'd say, you saying all this person still had heroic sanctity. That's the base of a saint, heroic sanctity. Then they would be canonized. But what they got Cabrini on, so the devil's advocate for Cabrini said, nobody could have this good business sense. That they went off that Cabrini was so good. Because she was a mover and shaker. She was a saleswoman.
developer.
She was
She was a developer. And
She
they said
was a developer.
She was
Yeah.
a developer. She'd go in
There's
and
no doubt about it.
she'd get money out of people they never thought she'd get money on. She knew how to joke with people. Like she was a smoozer. She was a networker. And that was what they put against her. She was way too good for money to be holy. Right? That was the argument
She
against
was
her.
a builder.
Yeah.
She's a builder.
I mean,
absolutely.
she's just as much of a builder as builders are now.
Yeah.
She was back then, and she got the money to create those buildings. She's
And Columbus Hospital
incredible
alone.
what she did.
For the Italian immigrants. I
3
mean,
hospitals.
Yeah.
Three.
Right.
She had
tried
to
to
be
build
the boss.
one.
She
was.
could not. She could not have been in
was.
any other order because she had to run the show. Right. That was her humanity. Right.
Yes.
Some people
yeah.
criticize that because
some
she was
people, sure.
bossy or whatever,
Yeah.
or she wasn't subject to others, her superiors.
I mean, she disobeyed the Pope, right? I mean, she disobeyed anybody. She didn't care.
She never disobeyed. She connived her way.
Yeah, she also befriended Pope Leo, and that was a huge asset. But she didn't want to keep calling that card of saying, bail me out, bail me out. you know. But she said, look, they won't tell me. No one will tell me who their donors are. So she befriended the Chesnolds. He was one of the first directors of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Italian American.
He was the general from the Civil War, right?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. He was in the Civil
good.
War.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then he became, this key figure at the Met.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and she befriended him, and he says, well, I can't tell you who the donors are, but if you go look at the tax returns,
Is that right?
you can, like today, you can find
you can
the
find
donor
out.
list.
Sure, you have to,
and that's
yeah.
what she did.
But
Wow.
that's the beauty of these people, that they're humanity, right?
Yeah.
Because despite all their flaws, their humanity, I won't say flaws.
Good.
They did tremendous things. I know, it's a little bit off topic. I was reading what you wrote about Dorothy Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Dorothy Day, had a rough relationship with her daughter sometimes. She flipped off. But Dorothy Day also, you write about, she's very hypercritical of her daughter. Her granddaughter would criticize her.
Right.
And then she'd go in her room and, pray to God for forgiveness for giving a rough time to her daughter. Because, again, you see these people as these very sanitized, hagiographical, plaster saints
But-
with no humanity. And you bring out the humanity in them.
But my question is to you guys is why would somebody construct a story like that? To whose benefit is it to make
To
a plaster
make them that
saint?
way.
Who's got the vested interest
Well,
to
you asked
show?
that.
What
But
is that?
But I
don't
think,
understand
Why
I
that.
think
do
that
that?
I think that we've always had a tradition. Hagiography is a Greek word, right? So if you take the lives of the martyrs, because Christianity, the first saints are all martyrs, right? You're a Christian, we're going to kill you, right? So they are tragic stories because what do you read in their whole life story? St. Lucy gets her eyes pulled out, and St. Apollonia gets her teeth pulled out, and St. Lawrence gets barbecued, right? So that really kind of consumes the whole story because no one's really interested in your personality. It's more like a horror film, right? So the beginning of Christianity is the story of a horror film of saints. And then you have people that, as Christianity becomes a state religion, and then you have people who do things like St. Francis and St. Dominic, right? You come from a culture of non-criticism, right? You can't criticize. I always say about Italian Americans, the World War II generation will never spoke badly about their parents. Their parents could have been an axe murderer. They would never, ever
interesting.
have criticized, because the idea of filial piety is, right, you're on a pedestal. We don't criticize the Pope. We don't criticize Father. We don't criticize Grandpa.
Right.
And you see Italian Americans, I've seen the biggest hurdle they have is criticizing parents. A World War II generation person, it was very, very hard for them to say anything bad about their parents. I mean, unless it was a really bad thing, and there was that guilt.
We get that a lot from our listenership. It's really interesting. We have a lot of people who
Really?
who find the show and say, it's interesting to have these conversations because this is as far as I understand what they're saying, they always felt like if they, especially in the modern American sense, right? Because we do so much self-examination and exploration and, frankly, oversharing sometimes in personal details, at least by old standards. And in a world where you're encouraged to do that and really examine your parents and upbringing, this and that, a lot of our listeners will say, I always felt it disqualified me from being Italian American that I had issues with my parents because
1000%.
our storytelling was always so celebratory of the family, and you don't really hear a lot of the family did bad stuff. It just gets sort of pushed to the side, right? Everybody, even if they were the worst loathsome villain, that just kind of gets taken out of the story.
I've had people say to me, I never felt like I connected because we had a family issue. Right? Because we're a culture of cover-up, right?
We're a culture of
right?
cover-up.
Mom had postpartum depression during World War I. She had to go away. No, she had tuberculosis, cover-up,
Right.
Grandpa had an affair with the lady next door, had a kid out of wedlock. It was a big scandal, but that never happened, was cover-up. So I had a lot of people write to me, well, I never felt that I belonged because I didn't have this idyllic family. Wow. And it's shocking because that shows how good we are at cover-up. Bury it. Wow. It never happened.
And so you don't say these things because you're embarrassed. Like, oh my God, my grandfather fooled around with the lady next door. My God, it's embarrassment to us.
If you spend time with the World War II generation, my grandparents,
that's what I'm thinking about right now.
If you think about them, they never. If Dad had 10 gumadas and used to beat Mom drunk every night, they just won't talk about it. But they will never.
That's true.
And that was whispered.
Right,
that
right.
was all
It leaks
whispered
down,
because
but we don't talk about it.
But I think that we're all from the same root, and I think the fact that we're not therapy people, right? That's the whole premise of The Sopranos. Like, he goes for help and it's threatening his life because who are you going to talk to an outsider about family problems, be it the mafia family or the actual nuclear family or the extended family. And I think that we come from a hagiographical society with parents. You know, I had a guy from Italy one time say, he used to hate to go to Italian American events because whenever they honored somebody, the Italian American would take the microphone and say, my father came from America and worked 2 jobs, and my mother used to wash floors and go to church every. He's like, you know, they produce, but that's not. I mean, as good as people are, people have. You know, Elizabeth Ann Seton dealt with depression.
Yeah.
Right? She has a university named after her today, a law school named after her today. And she had, you know, and there's people, and I think that Italian Americans, there are people out there who have depression, suicidal thoughts, maybe are in love with a married, or the same things that challenge these saints, you know.
Right. You're saying that these things were all hidden from us, and we thought we had to live up to something higher because we didn't acknowledge our own family history.
The piece of being human, because you have presented to you people who were perfect, and if they had imperfections, they were whispered about because we don't want to challenge the paterfamilias, right? We don't want to say like Mother Cabrini was bossy. Thank God she was bossy. She built an empire on it, right? But that's not part of our tradition. Is once you get to saint status, there's a saying in Abu Dhabi, when they die, they're all saints, right? And so then Mother Cabrini gets beatified, and then she turns into a plaster statue.
Yeah.
And maybe there was some nun one that I can't take her anymore.
Right, exactly.
I can't wait for her to go back to Nicaragua.
No, there was so many.
She's driving me up a wall.
Right.
She's criticized. You know, I worked for 40 hours scrubbing the floors, and she finds a one corner. Who knows? Maybe people say I can't.
No,
you know, I can't
she
stand
had
Cabrini.
these things too. Like she decided to take this one trip to South America, and they went across to go to St. Rose of Lima's or something. They went on donkey, like across to get to Buenos Aires, right? I mean, it was like crazy. Like, you know, imagine she was
loving
following
that climbing
her.
that mountain because I'm going to build an empire. And there's some nuns saying, I wish you would have left me home. But I think that shows people that there's an approachability.
Yeah,
that sanctity is a destination. You know what I'm trying to say? Like they traveled. They were no.
I love it.
Were no less human than we were.
Correct.
But here's the other piece to that puzzle. You know, why do they have such an undying need to serve people the way they do? And it's because they believe in God. You know, it's like having somebody you love. You'll jump off the mountain for them. So these people loved God in such a way that they would do anything to serve the other person.
That comes through in all their stuff.
Yes, whereas
right, that's a very good point.
You know, a fault-filled person like me, you know, I'll say, oh no, I don't feel like doing this. You know, I just, you know, and I give up. But a person like Cabrini never gives up because it's like God's telling me to do this. I've got to do this.
They would go into New Orleans, and she would tell her sisters, you know, yellow fever, you're going to die. You can die. And they didn't. Apparently, they didn't lose anyone. But what was happening is the Italian immigrants there were skeptical of the doctors, and that was really interesting to me. And they went in, and they would take the medication first. They would go in and say, here, and the nuns would say, hey, I'll take this medicine, so that they felt safe. They thought the doctors were poisoning them. They would have their convent fumigated first because fumigation.
Yeah.
It was like, you're not going to do that in my house.
Yeah, it's crazy for Italians. Yeah.
So Italians, like, you know, really needed that. But they also helped them assimilate, especially here in New York, with simple, like, hygiene and all the things.
She insisted her schools be taught in English.
Yes.
You know, Cabrini said, because a lot of Italian immigrants figured, I'm going to make some money, go back to Italy.
Right.
So they wanted their kids taught in Italian because they figured, well, by the time they're old, we'll be back. Then Cabrini's like, you're going to wind up here in America. Your kids need to learn
English. She
English.
put the English in.
But if
as
she
well.
might have been a bossy. She might have been she might have been a big boss. We don't know, right? Because what I'm saying is that we have the hagiography, but what I'm saying is that it was the God in them that got them, that transformed their humanity to their sanctity.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yes.
That was the transformative.
They would do anything because God asked.
So I'm saying, so a lot of people watch and say, well, you know, we have these people on these pedestals, but it's not a story of the plaster statue. It's how they dealt with their humanity to bring some to survive life, right? And to bring some greater good out of it.
If we can further that message.
Newark Abbey.
Yes,
You know, we live in Newark, and there's a place called Newark Abbey, and there's a whole bunch of monks that live there, and these people are living saints. You know, they'll do anything to serve their community.
St. Benedict's Prep.
St. Benedict's Prep.
This might get edited out because we don't have time. You got to do a documentary on the Know Nothings. They attacked Newark Abbey.
Yeah,
You know
sure.
that.
We
That's
talked
part,
about
that's
one
part
of
of the
those
story.
guys.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's part of it.
So do you want to hit? We got other.
But you know what? I have to say, though, it's interesting on the topic of our sort of Italian-American approach to history through rose-colored lenses, particularly in the family, because you guys did a project called Mother Tongue, Italian American Men and Their Mothers. So does this topic of sort of, whitewashing history come up in this? I mean, you hear a lot of conversations about mama, mama, mama. They can't all be the best mothers in the world, right? I happen to have the best mother in the world.
Yay, so do we.
Sicilian. But,
Yes.
At some point, there's problems there too. Did this come up in your examination?
In our film, we were really looking, Mother Tongue, at why these Italian American men put their mothers into their life's work.
Explain that.
So I guess the most obvious would be Martin Scorsese. So if you look at his films from NYU grad film to Italian American to
Italian American is 50 years this year. Is it?
I think it's going to be.
It's like the greatest movie ever.
They showed that one quiet night. I remember it in film school, and I was blown away.
Yeah. It's almost
just blown away.
Eerily attractive. Like it draws you in, so familiar, so comfortable. Yeah.
But that's the start, and even in his thesis film, when he recreated the end of 8½, right? Where he has them all lined up and his mom, and he put his mom in everything. And there's that tension between them throughout, whether it's she doesn't like the cursing, and then he actually puts that into one of the late films, and she's or she's surprised by what, Joe Pesci says in the middle of Goodfellas.
When's the cursing is what?
Casino,
right? She's like, oh, it's fantastic.
Vince Villa is he said the only direction he gave her is every time he says a curse word, and he says this in our film, you tell him don't you speak that way, and
she's great in that scene.
Yeah,
I
so
love that
there's
scene.
wonderful moments of that. So there's this tension.
I love when Scorsese brings Catherine, his mother, to the Letterman show.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Whoever,
it's fantastic.
what other American star
she makes lasagna.
She made a lasagna on the show.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that is to me the greatest emblematic of who we are.
Yeah. I think that relationship, it's one that we talk about Catherine Scorsese constantly on here, the tone of voice, the way she spoke, my grandmother in my head. But you always say, and it ties to Catholicism, it ties to this Italian-American relationship to Mama. What do you always say about the icon?
Italian Catholicism is a story of a mother who loses her son.
Yeah.
You go to Spain in Holy Week, it's I am Jesus Christ, I am crucified for your sins. And in Italy, it's like, look what he did to his mother. Look what he put his mother through. I mean, really, we're the people, the Pietà.
Yeah.
Spain is the country of the crucifix. Italy's the Pietà.
You're right.
How his mother suffered, right? And Italy, everywhere you go, it's the religion of the mother and the son.
Yeah.
Because you never see Catherine Scorsese is always with Martin Scorsese, and Mary's always with Jesus, right? And that's because a lot of Protestants don't understand that is an Italian mentality. Of course, she's going to be with her son. It's her only son.
Yeah,
it's her only son. So if he's going to be crucified, she's right there behind him.
So
she's going all the way to Calvary with him, because even if I can't stop the crucifixion, I'm going to be under the cross. And I think that is another Italy's marriage of the mother and the son.
That's the ending of our film, of Mother Tongue, which is when they say, look at this, Pasolini has made the gospel according to St. Matthew, and the last scene is the crucifixion, and she's like, the girlfriend is saying, the model girlfriend is saying, commenting on it, and she's saying to her partner, she's like, look, he casts the Virgin Mary, it's his mother, it's his real mother playing the Virgin Mary. She's like, who does that? Like, what
an Italian.
man?
Yeah.
An Italian
man.
If you take The
That was our
Sopranos, and
ending.
you could love The Sopranos or hate The Sopranos, Tony's messed up relationship with Olivia, his mother, is really the in my opinion, it's the start of the show.
It's
the
everything.
base of it.
We haven't watched it, so
I mean, I think it's so important to watch it,
do not know the
because
show.
to me, it was the first time that an Italian American production showed a mother in a negative, not in a negative way. She drove him up a wall. Right
Well,
now,
we
Olivia
need to-
Soprano
well-
now is an euphemism for the Italian mother that drove him. She was never happy, no matter what he bought her. And then you have that, and then you have the Paulie Walnuts mother relationship. You had two balancing mothers. You had Tony. That's why I say, people, if you cut out the mafia, and the strip joints and beating people up and all that stuff, and you just
Which I
concentrate on
wish
the
they
family,
did, but go ahead.
and you concentrate on the family, it's brilliant.
look, we have to have a lot more positive role model entertainment
Sure, but the
Italian
story,
Americans.
the story.
Pat's making a point about the
Holy
story.
Walnuts, and because you haven't seen it, you got to watch it.
I've never watched it. I've watched a couple episodes, but I
If
never
you
watched
watch
it.
Holy Walnuts with his mother, he has like a row with his mother, and then he's like 60 and she's like 85, and he comes back to her, and it was Ma. It was the Italian son and the mother. Like, she could be 150 and he could be 120, but to me, because that constant theme. If you remove, and this is not a pro-mafia
Take it out of
thing.
the context.
If you take it
Yeah,
out of
take
the
it out of the
context,
context.
if you have the context, and you just, because I'm saying what fascinating with The Sopranos and Livia, because you haven't seen it, is because it gets back to your theme. We are hagiographers. It's the first
You never-
time that you see a
flawed.
son who's tortured because he's the Italian American son, and his job is to make his mother happy. His wife is his second thought. His first job is his mother. The wife is the bearer of his children, but he's got to make mom happy. And no matter what he does, she's never happy. And to me, that was revolutionary. Because the way you break the hagiography on Seton and Cabrini, and you make them human beings that were doing their best. Tony, see, I often say this about The Sopranos. To sell a dysfunctional family on HBO, nobody would have watched it. That's why all the Italian American media that's mafia themed. What's The Godfather? It's the story of a family, a father's love for his family. He saw his mother get killed in Sicily to save him, and so he becomes a brute to protect his family, so his children don't have to suffer the way he suffered to see his mother die.
Okay, but he didn't have to become a criminal to protect.
Sure, he didn't. But what I'm trying to say is, that to sell that. So you think I'm not coming in here as the standard bearer of mafia. What I'm trying to say is that besides the four of us here, maybe three listeners, people watch films for the mafia aspect.
Okay.
That is the card. I think the greatest movie in Italian American cinematography is in Godfather 2, when Vito Corleone says to Michael in Sicilian, I love you very much. To me, that is the pinnacle of the whole movie. Why? Because it was horrible life in Sicily, right? He was a victim of the mafia, so he joins the mafia, in my opinion,
Right.
besides all the other things, because my children will not, I will kill, so they are not killed. I will
Okay,
defend
well,
my son. Now, I'm not defending that, but I'm saying is that theme,
Yeah.
that family
But
theme.
you're lionizing that theme. That's the problem. So you don't have to turn to that in order to protect your children.
Sure, I am not in any way endorsing any of the behavior.
No, but you're supporting it and you're lionizing it by
But I'm not
talking
lionizing. I'm
about
saying
it
that
with
in
such fervor.
But I'm saying our story. See, but then you're disqualifying everything you came here for. You just flushed down the toilet because you're saying that people are human. Michael Corleone is human.
And a criminal.
He's a criminal. Sure, Christ was crucified between two criminals.
Okay, what's the point of that?
The point is that one criminal turned around. We don't know the story. Dismissed the good thief. We don't know what his story was.
Okay.
Right.
That was left out of the Gospels,
Okay.
right? So yeah, he has
So
a very
what's the
short.
point of saying that there's a criminal on the other side?
Because
of
what I'm saying is that people, your whole story is that people are complicated.
Absolutely.
Now,
no
some
doubt
people
about
have complicated lives and good comes out of it. Some people become bad, right? Some abused children become the best fathers. Some abused children become abusers
it.
themselves.
Senza dubbio.
So what I'm trying to say is that, but in all of it is humanity. These shows, people just see blood and gore, but there's
But in other words, they
You're saying
want to
that
see
there's-
blood and
They
gore.
wanna
They-
at
see
the
it.
heart of
at
it.
the heart.
Okay, well, I don't want to see
What
that.
keeps
Okay.
us in there is the humanity.
Tony Soprano
The
had a soul. If you found the Catholic thing, you might say he's damned to hell, and he's a fictitious person. But Tony Soprano, everybody has a soul.
But I think to Pat's point,
you know what
like,
I'm trying to
there's
say?
a ton of really crappy mafia stuff out there that fails. There's a few that are elevated to art. I struggle with this all the time because I grew up in a family that didn't
No
watch any of
doubt
this
about
stuff.
it, yeah.
And I still haven't seen The Sopranos. I've seen a few episodes.
Same here.
But then the question becomes, as you engage them as art, where is the line, right? Like is
Yes,
The Godfather
Yes.
Oh, it's brilliant.
brilliant, right?
Yes, it's a very good
Fabulous.
movie.
It
Yes.
holds
Yeah.
up, and they
Yes.
taught it in film school.
Yeah.
5-act structure. It's perfect. We also did profiles on Edie Falco when she was doing Sideman on Broadway and happened to be doing these other shows, many other shows. We also did a profile on Michael Imperioli and John Ventimiglia, and they were doing a buddy movie from Italy that you probably don't know of, but they were elevated.
Just take
Because of the
back
show.
Vito Corleone as a human being with a soul.
Okay. Well, see, because when you say soul, then it gets messed up by the fact that the guy could be a criminal and shoot somebody
that's
and let that person die.
Sure, but he's still got a soul.
Yes,
he made a choice.
But you're making the word soul sound like he's a good person.
No, it's not, because soul, free
like
will.
He's got some sort of moral.
But everybody has. If you take the Catholic, everybody has a soul, right? Now you could
yes,
and everybody could do good and everybody could do bad.
Okay, so you're saying
like a morality.
Corleone had the soul, but it was a bad soul. Right,
Well,
that's
was
what you're
it-
saying.
was it-
like he can't have a good soul? I love my kids, but I'll shoot this guy. You can't. That's
Do you have a bad soul? Or do you make bad decisions?
Well, it's
You're
just
judged
a
on your
bad soul.
decisions.
Like I love my kids, but I'll shoot this
Well,
person. It's a bad
But
soul.
think of this: Sonny is killed in The Godfather.
Okay.
It's very Sicilian versus Neapolitan dynamic,
correct.
actually,
It's
right
black
now.
and white
Because we
Sicilian.
Sicilians have that very black and white.
Yeah,
Like
correct.
you sound like my grandfather, my brother, my mother right now. You're
Right, I'm
good
right
or
or
bad. And when you do bad, you're bad. And the Neapolitan
No,
take
but you
is
always
like,
say
well,
that characters aren't interesting if they're just black and white,
But
right?
think
'Cause,
Sure,
you know, they don't
but
have
think of Vito
burning
Corleone's
devils or
pain.
plaster saints.
As a father,
Absolutely.
as he sees his dead son.
Absolutely.
So all
Make all the
right, but I'm saying,
right
but
inquiries.
all you did, your home, your limousines, all this stuff, and none of that's going to bring your son back. That is
Sure.
the deepest,
of
like.
course, to the other side of the point, his son's dead because of him.
That's right.
Sure, but that's what I'm saying. But that
just-
complicates it.
Good point.
But can I tell you something? Let's say
That's
let's say
right.
Dismiss
That's
the Good
right.
Thief
Difficult.
was worse than Vito Corleone. You don't know.
Okay.
He could have been a mass murderer. He could have been a rapist. We have
But
no
he
idea.
Changed.
Sure, but
in
that's the
his-
whole story of Catholicism. And that's the whole
Last
story of
moment.
Christianity.
Right, and forgiveness.
Sure, I mean, if Vito Corleone at his last moment was truly sorry,
He'd be
church says
forgiven.
that he went to heaven. Same good thief. I'm saying I don't know, and these are fictitious. Why we're fighting over fictitious characters? Only God knows. But I'm saying, but that's why I love what your work is. Your work is that everybody's human.
Yeah.
You know, like
Definitely. And our characters.
It's just
in our
that there's a
films,
lot
we
more
want
stories
that.
to tell with those great stories and themes.
Right, but I'm
in
saying
it,
that
without
makes-
having
I,
to.
I agree with you on that. I think.
I said,
look,
why we should have a Sicilian American podcast? People just-
Listen, when I went to school with Mary Lou, all of our friends were all Italian Americans, and we were all lawyers and doctors and engineers and all that. Where are those stories?
Yeah. But that's the they don't
But
sell.
that's the whole part. but-
That's the problem.
But they
that's why
can
we-
sell.
That's why
They
we
can
my
sell.
nuts on miseria. This is what I have. But what I'm trying to say is that the reason behind this podcast is to have a discussion on everything.
Sure.
The Italian brain surgeon, the Italian gardener,
Good.
the cop,
Love it.
everybody. So we're here for everybody. What we're trying to say is that we also, my campaign with John at the beginning, I didn't want to be hagiography. Because Italian Americans love that. My father worked at 2 jobs, and my mother scrubbed the floors. So, but, and then,
That's all you get.
also,
That's
and,
all you got.
and your father had an affair with the lady next door, and it destroyed your trust in men. Like I'm trying to say is that humanity is part of the human experience. So if we're going to talk about Italian American issues, you can't talk about it from That's why people are people, right? And that's the whole story of humanity. People, everyone's carrying their cross, trying to whatever they're burdened with in life. Problem is not that we have mafia movies; is that that's the only genre we're depicted in,
Yes.
Right.
right? In a fair
And
world,
we do nothing about it.
no, we are. I mean, what the heck are we? I'm not saying you're here. We are.
Well, the
No, I
fact
mean-
that we're also talking about this at length
Is very
I think is
critically
a problem.
important. Yes,
Well,
that's
no,
what their
no, I
show
think
is
a
also
problem
about.
too.
But why is it
that
a problem?
we're spending a lot of time talking about the show again and again
Oh, that
and
the show,
again.
right. Right. Well, we're discussing it as
I know we're
context.
discussing it, but we keep discussing it.
But I think the problem is like, if we don't discuss these, see, a lot of these projects are used to define us, right? I remember sitting down with Vinny Pastore when I was the president of NEAF, and he came to one of our events. I was very grateful because a lot of people
He's a
didn't
great
come
person.
to our events, right? Really nice guy, interacting with the crowd, and people are giving him the stink eye. And a lot of the NEAF crowd was very anti-Sopranos, and here was this guy. And I remember having a conversation with him basically like, he's an actor, right?
Yeah, he's an actor.
Got to
He's
take
probably
whatever
a great
role he
guy.
can get, right? But his point was, here's all these
It's
people
not
in the
with
room
him, so
who
it's
have
not-
money and influence,
Yeah.
and instead of complaining about what currently exists, that is poor definition of us, they should be putting together the resources to make alternative presentations.
Yes,
Beautiful.
right?
and that was Tony
And-
LaBianco's.
Yeah, it was Tony
call.
LaBianco's
He
big,
spoke about
exactly.
it. Yeah.
And that's a problem in our community. And part of what happens is when I was at NEAF, the PBS documentary that John Maggio made, the 4 hours on
Yes,
Italian
on
Americans,
Italian.
they had pretty much wrapped it up by the time I got there, and they came looking for some last dollars. It was like $75,000 or something to the budget of a couple of million. And no major group in the community would meet with them because there were segments that dealt with organized crime.
Okay.
And they just threw them out of the room. And so I sort of was forged in that fire early in my career to say, like, okay, this is a great project that otherwise, isn't going to be on PBS. It got millions and millions of views. We have to kind of find that middle ground to deal with these things, because it's a recurring theme, not even the genre. This internal conversation is a recurring theme in our community. And I actually think the further we get from the creation of this subgenre, the less we're going to have this conversation, not because we as a community have dealt with it or come to a different place, but because people aren't going to question it anymore. That's what frightens me.
Oh, yeah,
if we don't have
I
these
want that.
conversations, the next generation is just going to be the ones that say, like, I relate to this, even though 0.0001% of people have any even remote touching on this lifestyle. That's what bothers me. So I always find if we can be a venue for these kind of tough conversations, we try to be. But at the same token, you guys have had a lot of great projects that you guys have done, and we are here to talk about, so we should talk about them. You are recently back from Sicily, is that right?
Yes.
You've been filming over there.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So we spent the month of April divided between the South and the North. So in the South, we made a story. It's called Chiara's Sicilian Love Story, about a young woman who is kind of flips the scales a little bit on her mom, because she starts to question her mother's love life, which is not the usual. It's usually the mother grilling her young, 20-year-old daughter. So we did that, and we were able to work with some very talented actors and put in poetry and the things that we love, and to shoot in this tiny Sicilian town called Trapetto, which was just pretty amazing. So we've been showing this because this is the year of Italian roots tourism. We've been showing that. We just showed it at Italian Cultural Institute, along with Our Return to Italy, which is the film we made about a year ago, released it about a year ago, and it's about a family of New Jersey winemakers who decide to uproot and go back to Italy, not as retirees, but as a working family business, and to compete in the winemaking business. So we spent the second 2 weeks screening that film in northern Italy, and also working with the Veneto Film Commission to make the longer version, which, because everyone says, because at the end of that film it says, we just showed it last week, to be continued, and now we have to bring the family back to
So it's a
Italy.
short.
Yes, it's 30 minutes, correct.
Are they both shorts?
Yes. And so now we're going back to Italy and filming the conclusion of that, which is seeing what happens when Italian Americans come back and try to make a living there.
Yeah, and he can't make a living there, so he resorts to crime and he gets involved in the mafia. And that's the part of the story that we really didn't want to write in, but we had to.
I just got crucified.
But we
How
had
you put it in your movie?
We had to write that in. We had to write it in.
Joking.
No, I'm not joking, because Italians have to become part of the mafia. We fell
joking.
into that same trap too,
He's
but
making
it's
a
the
joke.
truth. What are
Okay.
we going to do? Why are we doing
This is
this?
Sicilian moment. This is Sicilian moment.
He's joking. He's joking. That's not where the story went. So we are going back to northern Italy to finish this story called Our Return to Italy. And it is as was commented, was made, it's not that they're going back to the old country. They're bringing the new Italian American back. This is a family that has multiracial components. This is a family that's multi-generational. The question of same-sex marriage comes into it. It's just a different society going back into Italy.
I think people, a big thing that Americans really don't understand
Yes.
is Italy changed. Every country changed. The world changes constantly.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That's the point, though,
in
right?
the world,
They've evolved. We're not going back to what
I
we
don't know
think.
if I often think of the word. Like, I get hung up on words. I was in Italy, I guess, about 2010.
Okay.
And I was with somebody who's a friend. This woman, her husband left her for his high school sweetheart that he reconnected with on Facebook.
Wait, start again? Let me hear this again.
So I was with a friend of mine who was
Okay.
consoling his grieving friend,
Okay.
whose husband had left her and her kids for a girl that he had been involved with in high school.
Okay.
And he had,
First
and they first of the, and they had found each other on Facebook.
Okay. Now he's gone.
He's gone. But
All right.
what shocked me at that moment, I said, this is America. So what I'm saying is that if you were in Italy in the 70s, their culture was so different and the world was so different that we have global problems. We have global societal problems because that exact same story could have happened. That was a personal moment for me when I said, this is global. Problems are global today, right? So if you read, who's it wrote the book in 1964, the Italians? The Barzini. Barzini.
Yes.
If you read Barzini's book, he's like, this will never happen in Italy. He says, like, this will never happen in Italy. And everything he said will never happen in Italy, all happened in Italy, right? So Italy,
Really?
and that's what shocked me. But if you're in Italy in 1964, in those years of Sophia Loren and Pasolini and and Armor and all those other movies, and you're there, an Italian definitively says we will never. We are a frozen, iced society that will never happen. And part of it he talks about was the strength of the Italian family. This one happened, and the connection, and it all happened. And I sat there in 2008, and I said to myself, a time whenever it was, I said, was it Barzini? It's all crumbled because their problems are no different than ours. That same story of a guy dumping his wife and his kids for an old flame on Facebook could have happened in Tennessee, or it could have happened in Toronto, it could happen in Sydney. Or it could happen in, South America. I don't think it was on Facebook then, but it was an international thing. And that's the thing Americans don't realize, who don't have a strong connection with Italy of today.
Right.
How it's not the country your grandparents left.
They still don't have dryers in Italy.
Clothes dryers.
Nobody has a clothes dryer. What the heck is that? And everybody says the same thing. Ooh, it's very, very expensive.
Well,
it's like, where are their solar
Yeah.
panels? This is a country
We put that into our film.
lit by the sun. The Italian sun. No, but they don't use their sun over there.
But
it's all imported. All their energy. 90.
Sure, but they're making cheese the way they did when Columbus was in grammar school.
Okay, well, you have to.
But I'm saying, but their social issues
Yes, it
are
has to be.
contemporary.
Of course.
No energy.
And right, which we address in the film. But also, I think the point here is
And
too
they still
that
don't have
moved,
screens on their windows.
They move beyond, and I
My
think an
mother's big
example.
concern.
What the heck is
no
that?
screens, right? The thing is that when my mother, who was Italian, and was there until she married in her 20s, her late 20s. Whenever she'd go back to Italy, she was always seen as not really from here, right? So it was almost like she wasn't really here, like she wasn't American because they always detected her accent, and then when she went to Italy, they detected something different. So yes, Italy has changed, and we don't go back to this one frozen idea. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, but some of those other things don't change. They still don't have screens.
Right.
They still don't
But they
produce
have
their
air
own energy.
conditioning.
This summer
If
they
you were
do.
there in the
Sort of.
90s,
Sort
the
of.
wall units are nice. I
mini
like
splits?
Mini
mini
splits.
mine with the remote control, but
Right.
I,
But they
Father-in-law
still don't
thinks
have
those are the
enough of
greatest.
them.
No.
I think it was the greatest,
'Cause it's still
greatest
expensive.
positive evolution in Italy, which they hate, is the air. I love air conditioning.
Absolutely.
It's my greatest friend in the world.
Absolutely.
I love 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It could be December. It could be July.
Yeah.
This
Certain
summer,
things.
this summer's the first time I ever saw them surrender to it. Actually,
It's
it's
nice.
so
I
hot. I
love
was
it.
there last week.
Oh, were you?
It was 102 degrees in Rome. There was air conditionings on everywhere. It was like somehow they found the cure to whatever disease the air conditioning will give you, and they were absolutely like they just surrendered. They had to have it.
Well,
It's-
when we went even to Sicily in April and it was hot, it got hot. We made sure we were in an air conditioned
was hot in
place.
April.
Yeah, it was hot.
I mean, Sicily's
Not
boiling right
brutally,
now, right?
but
Yeah, yeah,
it was
right.
hot enough that we had these special hats donated to us, and we thought that we were joking, like it's like
I mean,
we're
why do
making
they go to
Lawrence of
sleep
Arabia.
in the middle of the day?
Yes, they take
You have
siestas,
to.
right? You
Yeah,
have to.
There's
You
no
have to.
choice.
We wore them.
It's too
and
hot.
The hat we were wearing, it looks like Lawrence of Arabia, and we wore them because when we went out to, it's 85, 88, and that sun's beating on you. Yeah,
In April.
in April.
In April, yeah, it's only going to get worse too. Unfortunately, it's going to be a real issue in Italy of all places. It's that the climate changes.
Well, they better start creating solar panels.
Yeah.
And
They
those
just
windmills
changed the
we'll
law.
See, and
Yeah, yesterday I just read. It could have been that they changed it this week, or apparently now the Italian government, you can't put solar panels in agricultural space. I guess there was
and why not?
I guess there was
Perché no?
lobbying from the farmers. I suppose. Yeah.
Either that, or they're lobbying from the oil, whatever.
Yeah, could be, yeah.
Don't start with the solar panels. That's going to knock us right out.
It would help
Don't
them
start
so
with
much,
the
especially in
windmills.
Sicily.
That's
Yeah.
going to knock us right out.
Sicily, it's like
It's
a no-brainer.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Yeah.
My family still doesn't have air conditioning.
I know.
That is crazy. But this is, I guess, the the thing about Italy, right? Like, you know, as much as it changes, is as much as it stays the same. As Tancredi says.
Yes, and The Leopard, our
The
favorite.
Leopard.
What a film.
Best.
You
What
know,
a
you know, it's
film.
funny. We were in Palermo, right? And now you come in here in New York City, and nothing stays the same. You just knock it down.
Yeah,
There is
sure.
no history here. Who cares?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't
And
it?
you know, I mean, there's a beauty to New York because of that too. So.
I mean, you leave New York and you're like, the building that I love was there last week, or the restaurant was there. Like, I just went
Last
yeah,
week.
really, I just went to go to a steakhouse. I'm like, this thing I just ate here a week ago. It's gone. It's just like, and nobody even thinks about it. It's a new store, new business. They've been there 1,000 years.
New York, America.
Yeah, it's,
Progress.
America's a place where you could be there for 15 minutes and act like you've been there 1,000 years, and Italy's a place where you could be there 1,000 years and the service is like it's been there for 15 minutes. I think that's the ultimate, right?
That's good.
That's
This
it.
is very deep today.
That's a deep
This
day.
was great. This was great
this is
interaction.
We
maxed
came
because-
to talk about the
We
saints.
went from Sister St.
We
Matthew
included the
to
sinners and the
mafia.
Sicilians and
What
everybody
the
else.
nuns we
That's
had
right.
in school,
Yep.
we had some of the same nuns.
That's the episode title.
Incorrigible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incorrigible. That was her word. Incorrigible.
He is
Not on.
incorrigible.
This is
For-
a. This
our
is
audience
a
knows.
And I don't have my kazoo still.
All right.
Thank you,
I'm on a
guys.
kazoo strike.
Thank
You'll
you
we get a
guys
kazoo.
for
Thank
what
you
you
guys
do.
for coming in.
Seriously,
We appreciate it.
thank
Same
you
to
for what
you.
you
Yeah.
do.
Yes,
This is
thank you
exciting to
so
be here.
much.
Same to you. We really
We
appreciate
really
So
it.
let's get a
appreciate what you
rundown
guys
of your
do.
movies for people to go and check them out.
Yeah, so
Just go to BongiornoProductions.com.
yes, BongiornoProductions.com, and they can find everything.
Yeah.
Flash it on the screen.
Whatever we've done is on that.
We're gonna have a credits going over. Nikki's gonna put all the different titles of the movies. You've got projects like on Venice and Sicily and the Italian Americans and their moms and all these wonderful things.
Catholic schools.
Catholic
Sure.
schools.
The Sisters of St. Joseph at Chestnut Hill.
Yes, here we go,
Subjects
all
that
the
define
way.
us all. Yes, they certainly are powerhouses for sure, and you guys have created a litany of fine works for everybody to go out there and familiarize themselves with. Topics ranging, like today, from the saints, the sinners, the Sicilians, and everything in between. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See that you're born in Italy. If you want your life to be great. See that you're born in Italiano and your life will be great. See that you're born in Italy.